Conchita, she's a journalist from our country, Mr. Jacopetti, the Ferrari, and Giampaolo. I think it's pork.
But if you don't know that it's pork, it won't act like pork.
Oh, yeah? It looked very nice.
Thank you.
That's
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
That's fish?
Thank you so much. That's all right.
This is from Brazil.
That's bad. Tingnan mo. Kailangan pumarada muna.
Ayan.
Colonel, I said, I just saw the Muhammad, the movie, and how do you go through the desert? How do you find your way? Because one day the sand dunes is here, and then the sand dunes is blown by the wind, and it is there, and it is here. I said, how do you follow the moon? How do you do this? He says, by feeling. I said, how do you feel your way to this desert? Yes, we know where north is. Well, the stars too, we said. So, because we move, he said, feel. I said, you have helped me very much. Can you imagine a big deal saying, how do you go through the desert, you know, feel. I like Bacon very much. It's very ugly pictures, you know, but you can see how my appreciation for Bacon painting was because it is how people dehumanizes people. It is only when man becomes ugly, it becomes really ugly.
Dapat
from our country here, but Mr. Jacopetti, the Ferrari, and how do you Giampaolo? I think it's pork.
But if you don't know that it's pork, it won't act like pork.
Oh yeah?
It looked well. Thank you. That's beautiful.
Very nice to meet you.
Thank you. That's fish? Okay, so much. That's all right.
This is from Brazil.
That's bad. Tingnan mo. Kailangan pumarada muna.
Colonel, I said, I just saw the Muhammad, the movie, and how do you go through the desert? How do you find your way? Because one day the sand dunes is here, and then the sand dunes is blown by the wind, and it is there, and it is here. I said, how do you follow the moon? How do you do this? He says, by feeling. I said, how do you feel your way to the desert? Yes, we know we're north. Well, the stars too, we said. So, because we move, he said, feel. I said, you have helped me very much. Can you imagine a big deal saying, how do you go through the desert, feel. I like Bacon very much. It's very ugly pictures, that you can see how my appreciation for Bacon painting was because it is how people dehumanizes people. It is only when man becomes ugly, it becomes really ugly. We sat there for some more. Then my cousin wrote a note. It says, if you are tired, why don't you go to the canteen of the congressman? And then we wait there and have a drink and coffee. And hopefully this man Marcos, stops attacking the budget, so it will pass. And the president then wanted already the budget to be passed because the government was telling me you cannot spend money. So we went to the canteen of Congress. We were there. In fact, I was in the sleepers. I was not even in the shoes when I met Ferdinand. So I was in the sleepers. And so we were there. When Ferdinand came in, he says, but who is this woman? And so he told everybody. He went to the Speaker of the House, my cousin, and then says, oh no, he says, not this one. And then he went to the former Speaker. He says, oh no, not this one. All the very prestigious guys in the no way, cannot. You're a playboy, not this girl, you know. This is a nice girl for you, too nice a girl for you. So he asked one congressman who is not over there. So he says, can you introduce me? Oh, I will introduce you. I know she's Miss Romualdez. So I was finally introduced. And I did not even know this guy, Congressman Gonzalez. We met. And then he said, but it was very amusing because he said, oh, Miss Romualdez, you come from Leyte. I said, yes, but I come from the East. Because I knew, it was well known, it was nationally known that he had a girlfriend also in the West, you know. Oh, you know, immediately made like, I said, but I come from the East. I don't come from the West. Ooh, the president said, ooh, this woman knows East's intelligence. And of course, wanted to find out how tall I was. But I was really shorter than him, but every child I grew up for half an inch. So anyway, he, half an hour after, he said, Imelda, if you will marry me, he says, I'll marry you now. He says, I hope you will. And then I said, I was so shocked because that I had met him only for half an hour. And then he said, I said, I don't even know you from Adam. And so, but he told everybody, my goodness, I'm very much in love. I'm in love. I'm going to marry already. And everybody was all laughing at him because it was like crazy because he was very quiet. He would play around with girls and flirt, but he was really not the marrying kind. But he was dead set. He was 37 years old. So you're marrying? He said, oh, do you think you're marrying? Really? I'm going to get married. And then he said, did the woman say yes already? Just, oh, that's not important. The important is I have decided that I will be married. But I did not hear that until later. And of course, he started writing me, I'll follow me now and I'll follow you the rest of my life, which was the last, that's not true. So, 11 days after, 4 days after he saw me, he never saw me. Then, the next day, just everybody knew about it. The president of the Philippines, Magsaysay, knew about it.
Hello.
And so, the next day, Marcos was attacking the budget again. So the president called up the speaker. He says, is the budget not yet out? No, this Marcos is hitting it still. He said, but I have news that your niece, your cousin is Marcos is beholden with your cousin. Why don't you bring your cousin over to, to stop this guy, to have the budget passed? True enough, I was in a party. I was fetched by the wife of the Speaker of the House and brought to Congress. Of course, the minute I came in, finito. Marcos sat down and no more. The budget passed the same night. And so everybody said that it was that night that Imelda saved the budget because Imelda, it was a political maneuver from the... So, but the next day, Ferdinand tried to call the house. For 4 days, he could not get through the house. Then finally went to the speaker again. He said, hi, how can I get hold of Imelda? He said, ceremony. And on Saturday, we went to the town hall for the official, because when he went to Baguio, he was already bringing along with him a judge. Just in case I said yes, I would sign the register. And so he was visiting me. The judge was in the car waiting, and a friend who was a newspaperman, Joe Guevara, when he could not express what he wanted, a very articulate man, could not express what he wanted to say. This guy would, yeah, and he was so terrorized, and he was so nervous, and so it really came to finally I signed. I suppose it came in at the right time, because I was just so tired running away from men. This was.
L'ultima immagine, signora, l'ultimo parola, l'ultimo ricordo che lei ha avuto di suo marito vivo, qual è?
Well, there were many in the succeeding months that the doctors told me that he was very serious and he could pass away any time. In fact, January 19, I was prepared by doctors that he might be dying any time. And in the many succeeding operations and things that they had to treat the president with, they said that he could go anytime. And at one given point, in fact, when he had his first major operation, they said that they will go in and the president would have only 2% chance. And I said, well, let's go in, and that 2% we will take a chance, because I'm a believer and I believe in miracles. And so this went on, and always I was praying in the hope that on May 1, our wedding anniversary, 35th wedding anniversary, he would still be there. And we made it. In fact, that was the time I did a recording of 11 songs to him, because it is said that the first and the last sense that leaves a human being is his audio. So I take 11 songs, his favorite love songs, and a vocalist that had no words, because the romanticist that he was, for instance, he liked music which is symphonic music, which had no words, and a vocalist that had no words, because sometimes music is distracted by the lyrics. So I recorded that for our 35th wedding anniversary, and it was amazing the reaction I got, and the reward I got for my wedding anniversary for our 35th year was he opened his eyes and he gave me a big smile and blew me a kiss. So I was very happy for that. And of course, the romanticist that he would be on Valentine's Day, he would give me a purple heart, very much like the soldier purple heart. When you are wounded, he felt that I had a wounded heart with all of these happenings to us. And then I was praying, of course, to the good Lord that on July 2nd, I would be privileged to have him on a milestone of a birthday in the Orient, especially the Chinese, would always celebrate the 60th birthday, because it's going to the third decade. And I remember, and on his 60th birthday, I made such a big celebration for the whole country, where we went back to the home province and all of these things. So I was recounting this to him, and even when he was very sick before my birthday, where in 2 weeks' time he had 3 major operations of his pancreas, his ulcers, and his kidneys. And nobody thought he would survive. This was in a matter of 2 weeks, 3 major operations. He survived that to be able to celebrate my birthday. And was, of course, very, very, very weak by then. And even then, on my birthday, he apparently had always was having things made for me long before I would celebrate my birthday. And so on my last birthday, last July the 2nd, he gave me this. And it was so touching because he could hardly write my name. He could hardly scribble his feelings. It's my last birthday gift from Ferdinand, last July the 2nd, wherein in all his physical weakness, he wrote with his eyes closed, struggling. Here, meaning Imelda, I love you, Ferdinand.
Don't be advised, to have a power, but not necessarily to use the power. This is the very truly strength. This is.
That's the strength. And then he
when
said,
you have a pistol, but you don't.
that is why yesterday, Maestro, he said to me, darling, the art in the use of power. Power is never used; it's only felt. It's like a gun with 1,000 bullets. The moment you use that gun once, it's no longer 1,000 bullets. It's already 999 bullets. So how can this man be bad? Yes, he was rich. He became very rich. Yes, he became very powerful. 20 years. Yes, he had all of this power because of his love. He went. When you go intensity to infinity, it is extravagance of the highest order and excessiveness of the highest order. But yet that extravagance was not used against man. It was used for man. Then that is the life of this man. It's not just the peripheral and so what was so very touching about this man, everything in his body failed. His heart, his lungs, his kidneys, his liver, his pancreas, his name it, every single organ. Every other day we were told this is going to be this is going to be that, this is going to be this. It was only one thing that did not fail him, his spirit. To the last 5 minutes, I said, Ferdinand, Bong is here. It was very touching. Bong's here. All the doctors were gone. Your son is here, Bong. Immediately opened his eyes, looked around, first saw Bong. Looked, he saw me, he saw his daughter, he saw his family, and then he smiled, and then my family was there. He closed his eyes, gone, finished. And Bong, like a miracle, was starting to, it was like, I give you my legacy. I give you me. You are now to be born from me. I die as you live. That is not my motherland, where I grew up and was born. It's still a question, a big question in the minds and in the hearts, not only of the family and myself, but the world in general. Why am I here? I was destined by the good Lord to be born in my country, the Philippines. And the reason for this commitment and obsession for a going home of the Marcoses to the Philippines is not only a matter of human right that I want to do this. It is an obligation, it is a responsibility to God. It is a pursuit of the divine will and divine right to do what is right and to bring him home where he can have eternal rest in his motherland. And this has been a question on the Marcos minds and those who are loyal to the vision, the principles, the goals that we have been committing ourselves and to millions of Filipinos. Why are the Marcoses here? This started some years ago, over 4 years ago, when we had problems, economic problem, because of the ideological difference in the Philippines being a very strategic geographic position where we are very close to the communist, Vietnam, China, Russia, all of this. And our country being a country that has been exposed to Western civilization, there has been this continuous conflict of ideologies, conflict of the rich and poor, the feudal system of the very rich that was used really by our colonizers to rule the colony. And with all of these divisions of mankind, economic, social, political, religious, there was our problem in Mindanao between the Muslims and the Christians, wherein I had to go to Tripoli to help bring about the ceasefire agreement from Libya. There was a continuous conflict in all levels. And Ferdinand Marcos, being president of that country, in trying to look for a balance of the left and the right, the north and the south, the rich and the poor, and having alienated and having affiliated himself with the free world, now was even misunderstood by the free world in his act while he was trying to balance, and was completely misunderstood. To a point that one day, after he was asked that perhaps it seems that there is a lot of trouble in the Philippines, the immediate problem was you, Marcos, because you are not popular maybe anymore. You are not loved by your people and endorsed by your people. And so even if Ferdinand was elected in 81 to be president for 6 years up to 1987 June, on February 86, he accepted the challenge to submit himself to the public and the people. And true enough, he won in that election. He was proclaimed by the duly instituted office, the COMELEC, the Commission on Election. He was proclaimed by Parliament, the Batasan Pambansa, the duly instituted body that was to proclaim the winner of the election. And he even took his oath of office as president. And yet, he won in the election, and yet a group of so-called reformists in the military, and then later on succeeded by the Chief of Staff, General Ramos, and the National Defense Minister came in to bring about the coup. The coup was aborted, and Ramos and Enrile were held in a camp in the Philippines. And yes, they said there is people there was people power because Cardinal Sin came in, the church came in to call for people power, but the claim was people power. But you can see now that it was more a media event because it was a focusing of the media to a group of people, not really the amount of people that there was. And so there was, he won in that election, but at the same time, he also was able to abort the coup because they were put there with not so many people. And supposedly helping them, but there was the military there that would contend with that. And documentary pictures will show this eventually. But what really made us accept to ride in the U.S. Air Force plane, in a helicopter, was when we were being attacked by rockets that did not belong to the Philippine Armed Forces inventory. They were using Philippine planes, seemingly we were being attacked by Filipinos, but in truth and in fact, the arms used there did not belong to the armory of the Republic of the Philippines. And so, even if earlier the chief of the CIA then and Mrs. Reagan was inviting us to the United States, I told Mrs. Reagan, and she was inviting us for security to come to the United States. I said, "Thank you, Madam." I said, "But now that my country is in trouble, Ferdinand and I will be the last person to leave our country." But soon afterwards, when we were being attacked by rockets, the president finally and I, seeing my children and grandchildren's life being endangered, we may be ready to give our lives for our country, but the children did not yet have the will. And so we asked the children, my daughter and my son, to leave us and bring the children out, but they would not leave their parents behind in the palace. So finally, we accepted to ride the U.S. helicopter to go to Clark. And when we were in Clark Air Base, which is about 40 minutes by helicopter from the palace to Clark Air Base, when we were there, very soon after we were told if there is where we had to get out of the Clark Air Base, because now Clark Air Base was being surrounded by Filipino communists, and we were a danger being there. So the president said, "So bring us then to Ilocos Norte, Pauay, my home province." And so I prepared a plane, and me seeing the plane was quite small, because I was getting already a little suspicious. My woman instinct was saying I was going to feel danger. I looked at the plane, but the plane was small, so I said, "This cannot go trans-Pacific." And going to the Pacific from Manila to Honolulu alone would be about 10 to 12 hours. So I said, looking at this small plane, I said, "This will not bring us out of the country very far. They must be honest bringing us to Ilocos, which is a small plane, which is only about an hour at the most away." True enough, we got into the plane, thinking we'd be brought to Ilocos. 1 hour passed by, 2 hours passed by. So, then it's a little, but meanwhile, the president was not too well, so I was very disturbed more about him than the length of this time. But after about 3 hours over, I said, "Where are we going? This is 3 hours already." And I don't see us landing yet. True enough, it was becoming dawn and we were going down, and I was looking down, and it was an island. It was not an island that looked like any of the islands of the Philippines. I am very knowledgeable and I am very familiar to our terrain of our country, even from air, because I campaigned in the 7,150 islands of my country. And so as we were going down, he said, the general said, we are going down because we are going down to Guam, because we could not land in Ilocos Norte because there are communists that is ready to attack us. They're waiting for us in Ilocos. So this is terrible. Then I leave. And so the others, history from Guam, because the president got very sick and he had a high fever. And so I said, just bring us to any place where there is a first-class hospital. And right away, the sooner we get him there, the better. So yeah, the thing was to Hawaii. And when we got to Hawaii, we were brought in Hickam Air Base, and we stayed there for over 1 month. And we were in a cottage, half of which was a group of people from the Philippine Embassy and the military, the State Department, that was watching and hovering over us. And the 90+ members of the staff and the family was in the barracks of Hickam. And I remember we used to, the president and I used to walk for several meters away at the clubhouse for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But it was a very humiliating time, a very depriving time, because our things, our valuables, had not come in. And it was a very difficult time because we did not even have our things, our personal effects, to a point that even as early as in Guam and in Honolulu, in Hawaii, we had go to PX for things like toothbrush, toothpaste, milk for the children, diapers, and all of this. And we had no money because all of our things were deprived us. And whatever money we had was peso bills. We had no dollar. I did not even have a single dollar because we were of no intent of going anywhere but our country. And to this day, we are still wondering why we are here in the United States. And worse, after 3 weeks, when Ferdinand was starting to be without fever anymore, and he was starting to be stronger, and he was even able to jog a bit, going back and forth to the cottage down to the officers' club for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. They started to see that Marcos was getting stronger. After a few weeks at Hickam Air Base here in Hawaii, when the president was starting gaining more vigor and health, and he was no longer with a high fever as when he was taken out of the Philippines, there was a big demand for the Filipino community. We have a big community in Hawaii of Filipinos that wanted to meet with him. And also the media. Finally, those who were taking care of us inside could not resist but have to make us go on a press conference. In that press conference, there was a prepared statement agreed upon by now our the people who was in charge of us, that they would make a certain statement. And as I look back to it, it was made to look like we had fled the country, that we had gone out of our country and not received out of our country. Because it was not our will and our desire to leave the Philippines. And so, but as the president gained more health and vigor, and there was more pressure to know what was going on. So, in the next few days, we were descended upon of suits after suits after suits and after suits, until all of us were sued for one thing or another, from smuggling to criminal acts or whatever, or all kinds of cases, including my grandchildren. I had 4 grandchildren then, and the eldest was the only one who could walk. The 3 could hardly walk. They were so young, and yet they had smuggling cases against them. And children of our staff, there were 40, were also included in that smuggling cases. So we were taken out of the Philippines against our will. We came to the United States not in a Philippine Air Force plane or our own private plane, which we had 2 even before Marcos became president. We did not ride in our own personal plane. We were taken in a U.S. Air Force plane. This is the story why we are here, and it's also still an obsession because it becomes more overwhelmingly irrational, illegal, inhuman, immoral, now that the president is no longer with us physically. And even the authorities here have said to me, when he had a medical severance, that while Ferdinand Marcos is still alive, we have jurisdiction over him. But the moment, this was in April, when I asked the immigration chief then, but the moment he passes away, we have no longer any jurisdiction over his remains, for no government has jurisdiction over the remains of any dead human being. So when the time came, at 12:40, I remember Ferdinand passed away September 28, 89. We had not even come back to bring his body from the mortuary where it was prepared for his lying in state in the house. At about 5, 6 in the morning, we had a wire coming from our lawyer saying that the Federal Aviation Board would disallow to have any carrier or U.S. carrier bring the remains of Marcos home. I had not yet really even begun the overwhelming grief of a lost one. I had to again face the shock of another inhumanity to man. So this is the cause we are fighting for. Not only for justice, for freedom, not only for man's right to all of these great principles for justice, freedom, and democracy, but we are fighting for a divine right, a divine will that the Philippines be our motherland, and it is in the Philippines that we can call our home. And it is only in the Philippines that Ferdinand Marcos can lie in peace, in eternal peace.
Dei documentari in cui appare lei e il Presidente circondata dall'attenzione di capi di Stato come Reagan, come Mao Zedong, come moltissima gente,
come lei pensa che in pochissimo tempo questa gente abbia cambiato opinione nei riguardi suoi e di suo marito?
Well, first of all, of course, it is the media that had quite changed this in almost 20 years. Marcos, suddenly Marcos, in a very given short time, was completely the reverse, because we never heard these things being said to us. Not never, but this was not the predominant theme. That corruption, criminal acts, and all of these things, racketeering, suddenly it just evolved. And this is coming from, first of all, the media that has really very little time to just see the black and white, the yin and the yang, and not the rainbow that every human being tries to make out of his and her life and the world that they live in. And so with that perception also, and the politicians and leaders of the world has also the reality of a specific time frame of their leadership, have to rely on this information and of course ending what is fashionable. But we know what is not fashionable is not really always what is classic. And the fashion at this point in time is a very materialistic world. How we can get justice? Not because the Americans are unjust, or the United States is an unjust system. It is only because we are premising from a different truth. Like it is true at one given moment, like now, let us say, it is 12 o'clock p.m. in the United States of America. And it is 12 o'clock a.m. in the Republic of the Philippines. And this is the truth at what? At that very single moment and second. It is 12 a.m. in the Philippines and 12 p.m. in the United States. And that is the truth. Now, how can I tell the truth when you know it is black, you know it is dark, you know it is night, and I say, yes, it is white, and yes, it is day, and yes, this is light? You will not believe me, because you see it from a different light. You see it from a different country, a different culture, different institutions, different laws, different procedure, different system, but worse, different culture, different climate, different place. Completely different culturally. We don't even have the jury system. They pick at random members of the jury who did not have to do, who were not authorized, and who were not empowered to rule a country that would live with the rest of the family of nations. When you have juries who have maybe even doctors, lawyers, PhDs, and all of that, or truck drivers, or porters, or waiters, and all of that, members of the jury, how can they judge a president for 20 years of a third world country of a different culture? And even if we put all the former presidents and the incumbent president as member of the jury, to Judge Marcos. It's a different thing altogether to rule a big nation and a small nation, to rule a very rich country and a poor developing country, to rule, in short, a country of different culture is different. And so you cannot even judge the president, really judge truthfully and honestly the president before you. And how much more to judge someone who has never been your peer or one of your race. So the matter of jurisdiction, a matter of neutrality, question of we are an independent country from no less from the United States of America. We were given an independence in 1946. This is the reason why the Filipino people then, during World War II, we had 17 million people. 1 million died in that war, double that of the death that occurred for the United States Armed Forces and camp during that time. And we were a small population. But we fought valiantly, and our men valiantly, and Marcos was in the forefront of that because he was the most decorated soldier at World War II.
La sua situazione attuale qui alle Filippine in questi giorni e qual è il programma nel futuro, cosa si aspetta dalla giustizia americana e come è trattata dal paese nel quale lei vive attualmente?
Well, what I'm waiting for is the truth to prevail. Justice to prevail, which is rightfully ours, both divine and human. And as a believer, I know the truth will prevail because God is on the side of the truth. And when Ferdinand was very, very sick, he used to say to me, and he was worried for me that I was quite apprehensive about the whole situation. He would always tell me, he said, the truth will set us free. Don't worry, he said. All our lives we committed ourselves to the right, and God is on the side of the right, and the truth and the right will vindicate us. And so this is the strength and the peace within that has carried me to this day. Because really, when the president passed away, I really thought that when he went away, I would just collapse. He was my life, he was my world, he was my great love. And when he passed away, and before this happened, the 10 months of vigil by his side in the intensive care in the hospital, I was always afraid of the very moment he would pass away, when the moment of truth would come before that he would pass away. And funny, when the moment came, it was a moment of glorious exaltation in great thanksgiving to the Lord Almighty for having blessed me for 35 years with a great human being, for that privilege. So I said, Lord, thank you, thank you, thank you. In fact, it was only the third day, when every day I would wake up, it was not there. It was not even there sick. So that was the only time I started to cry. But even then, Somehow, if the man had been a beautiful human being, a good person, a righteous man, every given truth that surfaces within the day, every beautiful thing that occurs, every given moment of beauty and love that arises, then you know he is alive, he is not dead. The great legacy of righteousness, the great legacy of love, enlightenment, justice, humanity, all of this, Ferdinand is again alive. And so, there being God all the time, there will always be justice, there will always be good, there will always be nice people and friends and all of that, then it will always be there. Of course, once in a while, you are human, you are physical, you are matter. And so I go to the Valley of the Temples to see where he is in temporary rest, before hopefully God will bless us with a miracle that he will be brought home. I know that if mankind will not give him justice, the Lord will perform a miracle that will bring him home. And in the event that Ferdinand is brought home and put to rest in his beloved motherland, where he will be in great embrace in his beautiful country, the Philippines, where even in death he shall embrace a country between the Pacific Ocean and the China Sea. And when I know that his remains will be in eternal rest, physically, materially within his country, in the midst of the world, then I, with the great legacy of freedom, justice, and democracy, now try to perpetuate this. In our people, bring peace and reconciliation to everyone, and hopefully bring peace and order in our country, that this nation can stand up again and once again walk shoulder to shoulder with all of mankind in dignity and in honor as a member of a free world that seeks quality of life for every human being and peace in every man and in every country. You can always make a start. And what little experience I have and the great legacy that I have from the President, I shall give to my fellow human being. And it will not be officially, because I think I have had enough politics. Because they say when it is for cause of people, it is politics. But you can still be with people without politics, because politics institutionalize love, institutionalize the giving, the serving. You can serve without politics. You serve because you love. And the other name for love is giving, serving, working. The opposite of love is not hate, it is selfishness. So now that Ferdinand has passed away and not passed away, I will continue to serve the bigger Ferdinand, the Filipino people. just as privately as before, just as deeply and profound as before. And now I have full concentration now for my fellow human being, to the Filipino people. And that great intensity and that deep love symbolized by Ferdinand will now be real in my countrymen and my fellow human beings. And talking about politics, I'm continuously asked by this politics. I was running for a position. I hope not, I pray not. So that whatever I do, I feel I have to do, and my priorities will not be curtailed, and I shall not be suspect that I'm doing this because for a position. And I do not want to take away my freedom. I have to do this because this has to be done first. This is the priority, this is the protocol. I always believe in the priority of the heart. And this is me. The priority, more than even rationality, for me has been the priority of the heart, of the feeling of love.
Le immagini di grande affetto da parte del popolo filippino, sia nei suoi confronti, sia nei confronti del Presidente quando è morto. Cosa pensa di questa manifestazione d'amore a lei che non è presente, che è forzata a non essere là? Qual è il suo sentimento nei confronti del suo popolo?
Well, first of all, every time I see this great demonstration of love, this great numbers of Filipino in great intensity and emotion, praying for a miracle that the President comes home, coming in great numbers in all days of the night, whether rain or shine, they are begging the President be brought home. This is, for me, when I see it, I am happy because I see that these people, these poor people, is also capable of great intense feeling of love, a positive feeling. You'll say, oh, these are poor people. They're not capable of great richness, and the great richness is that love. And so, seeing that great intensity of love, I see Ferdinand Marcos again. I see him alive because I see that love that I knew so closely and so well. There is now, I see Ferdinand everywhere. Everyone who loves, who gives, who serves, who is selfless, I see Ferdinand. I see my great love over and over again. So I'm happy for that. Not for the things that they gave or the things they offered or the material things. It is the symbol now. And being invited by Church of Christ, Iglesia ni Cristo, as you had just mentioned, on their 75th anniversary, which is a big day for this church that has a reputation of having their people who are kind, real Christians, and having a reputation that they are involved in the realities of the time, the nation, the place, and who call themselves kapatid, meaning brothers. Members call themselves brothers. And to have invited me to greet them, for me was a great privilege and a great honor to be accepted by a religious group of people whose reputation was that they were sensitive not only to the spiritual needs of man, but sensitive to the physical, material, economic, social, moral needs of man. And to have been so prominently invited on that day, this is truly the greatest honor that I could have had.
I would like to put two different questions. First one, if you know personally Mrs. Aquino. The second, what do you think about a person who is afraid about the return of the body of the president in the mainland?
I never had the privilege of knowing Mrs. Aquino. I met her once, I remember, in the heart center when I visited her husband, that took him 2 hours after for a medical operation in the United States. She was there to serve some refreshment, and what was all, that's the only thing. In fact, the president never had the privilege of meeting her. And so there is not much I know about Mrs. Aquino, except of her statements and her treatment towards us. And again, just like since we are talking about the presidency and leaders of a country, eventually the great judge is history, because history will judge a person not because of what people say or write about her. Eventually, history will judge her as to what she has done. And I hope that this great inhumanity of a man not even left to rest in his home country will be rectified soon, because poor Mrs. Aquino will be the victim and not Marcos. Because what is coming out now, that Marcos is now symbolizing what is right, what is good, what is even legitimate, that she's so afraid of. And the problem sometimes with death, the predominant part of you is enhanced in death. And in the stature of the president, who had been president for 20 years, he becomes a symbol of injustice, of oppression, of tyranny, of man's inhumanity to man. And the deprivation of a motherland. And all of these things that bring martyrdom to people. And so he has become a symbol for this man's inhumanity to man. And this outrageous peoples, of not only of my country, but of the world. It becomes a common denominator because it is something very personal and very human. Everybody dies. Everybody has a country. Everybody has feelings. So, I really pray that Aquino, Mrs. Aquino, will bring Marcos home because not only for Marcos, not only for the Filipino people, but for herself. I think she must do this soon before it destroys us all.
This is very funny.
Okay, goodbye. I'll talk to you.
Yeah, I'll get your picture.
Okay, you tell Tom that we will talk to him.
It's a beautiful light now.
Oh,
yes, now
Find out, it's a good way to woman is more interested.
Ferdinand was always complaining there was no flowers. Now there's flowers. Come, Irene, tingnan mo.
in Los Angeles.
No, in San Francisco.
I hope not.
Well, I think the first thing to achieve is the permanent transfer to
What
Washington.
is this, Malta?
No, this is the Republic of Italy.
Yes, the Republic of Italy.
Chi è che le copre l'ombra? Il sole.
Giampaolo.
So many times, cover pages, fancy shows.
Okay. Beautiful.
That's so nice.
Bellino, no?
Sali, go down.
No, perché lì sotto poi va la colonna della sua, non importa che noi andiamo sempre a singolo.
Mi vuol parlare, signora, di sua figlia, Irene?
Yes, Irene is the youngest of my 4 children. The youngest really is a chosen one, Amy. And Irene lives with her husband in California, San Francisco, with 2 children, and now our Amy is also staying with her. She studied music, anthropology, and archaeology, and she was at Mary of Ascot in London, but she finished voice and also music and doing some orchestra conducting. She conducts symphonies and orchestra, and she is the youngest really of the Marcos family, and but she is the one taking care of me now and keeping my life organized. I've been so lucky with having these wonderful children, these 4 wonderful children.
What about her character? So she's sweet,
She is very sweet, very graceful, but at the same time a very strong girl. And I think she has found a balance, a blend of being quite strong with character, but at the same time very nice, very pleasant girl to be with. And we love him. The 2 older brother and sister think that she is the masterpiece. The first one was good, the other one is better. Then they claim that she is the best. But of course, they love her dearly because she is the youngest. But I have been very blessed with 3 wonderful children. 5 years ago, this was my engagement ring, and it's pretty big considering that we met and got married in 11 days. 11 days, and also at the same time, 11 years after he and I got married, he was president of the Republic of the Philippines, and he has been president since then until the time he died. And even my wedding ring has little 11 tiny diamond rings. So he was very in his gifts, he always was very symbolic. And so many things between the two of us was very symbolic. Even my watch, Ferdinand had this, he calls it happy diamonds because he put 11 stones there, had it made. They call it happy diamonds, 11 little happy things, so that I can always say of the 11 as a very important number in our lives. Alluviums.